You got it, D.
Hello, everyone. We thank you for enjoying the yesterday, day one with us. We welcome you to sit back and enjoy and be prepared to make comments and to report back to us anything that can improve our service and our ability to service you in day two. Thank you, and we'll be talking on the other end.
Back out. Back out your audio, your video.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully looking forward to the weekend. Today's Friday, the weather is beautiful, depending on where you are. My name is Isidore Gusan. I'm a financial planner with a local firm here called 1847 Financial. We are based in Conshohocken, but we have not only a statewide reach, but also a national reach. I want to thank Christian Men Inc. for inviting me over again. This is my second time doing this, and to this wonderful program, get your house in order. And when you hear that, you kind of wonder, well, what does that really mean? What do people mean get your house in order? And obviously, it means different things to different people. Thanks for having me, and today it's a beautiful day out today, so I'm looking forward to finally get out of my room and go outside a little bit, enjoy the sun. My name is Isidore Gusan. I'm a financial planner with a local firm here, 1847 Financial. And I've been doing this now for about 12 years. About 12 years since I've been in business. I was in a different industry in a food and hospitality before I got into finance. And the reason I'm talking to you today is because when I came to this country 22 years ago, mind you, I didn't speak English. I didn't really in the government. And coming to find out that working here in the U.S., you got to plan for your own retirement. My father was a teacher back home. He had a pension, because that's how they do things back then. So when I came to the U.S. and I was working for a restaurant for almost 10 years, I never put money away because I didn't know I was supposed to. And nobody really told me that I'm supposed to do that. In my mind, I'm thinking, I'm going to work for this company until I die. And then hopefully before I'm dead and I retire, they just pay me a nice monthly check that's going to be my pension. And coming to find out that there's no such thing as pension working for most corporate America, and especially in a restaurant back then. So that was a rude awakening for me. And so I had to deal with that. I had to deal with learning about credit. I didn't know what a credit was. So I had to learn all these things the hard way, dealing with debt and so on and so forth. So I'm talking to you today because I wish that the first 10 years or 12 years of my life, I've been in the US now for 22 years, at least the first 10 years of my life, I can't undo those things that happened to me. I can only look forward. But I wish back then that I had a mentor or somebody who took interest in me, or even I can go to and ask about what does it look like? What does it feel like to live in the US? What does it feel like to build a life and build a life that I'm proud of? Whether I'm wealthy or not, but at least something I'm proud of, and I know I put in all my sweat and tears, work hard to achieve it, and then hopefully leave a good legacy for my family. And I didn't have that. So I got into personal finance to be able to help folks that may be feeling that way, that may be feeling they're not getting ahead, that may be feeling they really don't know how to deal with their finances. They really don't know how to deal with money, how to look at money, what it means in everything they do in life. To be able to coach them, educate them, so that they'll be able to make decisions that impact their life positively, not only for themselves, but also for the people around them, so they feel that they're contributing to the society. So that's one thing that I wish I had. But like I said, I work hard to put myself in the situation I am today. I always tell people of my age, I'm in my 40s. I always tell people of my age that, for some of them that got the financial leg up, education they're supposed to get, I always tell them, if I had that kind of leg up, I wouldn't be probably 10 years behind on things I wanted to do, but I can't dwell on that. Those 10 years are gone. I can only focus on the future. And that's the lesson and the story I wanted to share with you guys today, that it hasn't always been green. I didn't start off, I didn't come from money. I came to this country 22 years ago, like I said, with $5 in my pocket. And that's how my life started here. $5 to where I am today. And it wasn't easy, it was rough, but I'm proud of myself. Really, I don't usually say that I fought through and finally find a way out to be where I am today. So what I wanted to cover today, and I think I spoke about this a few years back when I did my first session, it's when you guys hear financial planning, what does that really mean? What does it entail? As I mentioned earlier, that also means different things to different people. Some people may think that financial planning is just having investment or working with an investment advisor. Some people think financial planning is have as much insurance as you can to protect your family and have an insurance agent that you work with. Planner like myself, from the school of thought that to have a successful financial life, you can't do just investing and you can't do just protection, meaning all the insurances in silo. You got to bring those two together, and also adding different component of everything that goes on in your life. So the importance of financial planning is what I would call all the stuff that goes on in your life, being able to coordinate all of them to make them something coherent that as you make decisions, throughout your whole life, you know exactly what each one of those decisions, the impact that will have on how you live your life. Whether it's negative or positively, you at least have a pretty good idea. You're not guessing anymore. You have a plan a roadmap that you can actually follow. So, sorry, I had to clear my throat. And I think for me, being in this industry for over a decade, the misconception that I have come across in terms of what people think financial planning is that have an investment account, have somebody the manager, you're doing your own, expect returns every year, whether that's realistic or not, that's a whole different conversation. And then hope that, when you get to retirement, you grow enough money to just live off. And that's fine. I mean, some people, it might work for them. For others, they just figure that, yeah, you know what, I'm good where I am, where my life is. I live off Social Security. I'll buy some insurance policy here and there, just make sure if something happened to me, my family buries me, and I'm okay. And for some people, that also might work. But to truly have a successful financial life, and also enjoy your personal life with that matter, is to be able to sit down with someone, talk about the things that goes on in your life, whether it's personal, professional, as it relates to finance, and trying to create a plan, a roadmap that kind of shows you as you go through life and you make those decisions, what are the impact of those decisions? So for us in financial planning, what we look at, the general areas that we typically focus on, the 6 areas that you've seen over here, from financial situation all the way to estate plan. And the way we look at it, essentially saying, what happens if we don't address one of these square or one of these boxes? How does it affect everything else? For example, if I don't have the appropriate insurance coverage, whether it's life insurance, disability, long-term care, or even property and casualty, what does that do if my house burns down? What does that do if I lose my job? What if I do if I get sick, or I lost the breadwinner of the house? Now there's no money comes in. How does it affect everything else? How does it affect wealth accumulation? Are you able to save for the future? How does it affect retirement plan? Are you able to retire at the age that you have in mind, or at the time that you have in mind? And if you don't, if all those things happen and you don't have your estate in order, how does it affect transfer of asset to the next generation and create wealth? So, and that's really the gist and really the importance of financial planning, is really to tie all these 6 areas together and making sure they're all speaking sort of the same language. And where if one of them does not work properly, it can affect everything else. Keep in mind, you're not trying to solve all your problems all at once. But the majority of what we do, especially for me when I work with my clients, try to prioritize each one of these areas to make sure that we figure out what is priority number 1 and the time frame that we can get it done. And then really put a plan together as to when we're going to tackle everything else. So, as you can see here, talking about all these different areas, if you don't have a solid financial situation, meaning get a good hand of cash flow, get a good hand of your debt management, saving and things like that, it may not allow you to do things like buy more insurance, things like put away money into retirement saving, putting money into investment account, or if you don't have the proper insurance, like I talked about earlier, how does it affect, retirement or wealth accumulation? And the big one, which is something that for us financial planners, we don't particularly do, but is an integral part of everything that we do, which is estate planning. And I think also the misconception here that is that to be able to do estate planning, you have to be wealthy. It couldn't be anything further from the truth. If you have asset, you got people that depend on you. You got people that you care about and love, that you want to make sure that life goes as smoothly as possible for them. You have to get your estate planning in order, meaning get your wills, your power of attorney. If there any trust work that needs to be done to protect assets for the future generation. If you're a business owner, taking care of your legal documents, some of buy, sell, business continuation plan, succession planning. All those things have a really specific place in your life that play a specific role. So when I work with clients, sometimes I like to begin with the estate planning to make sure that those things are done before we even get into the numbers and planning and all that stuff. Because one thing that I realize, money changes people really quickly. And if you don't have things in place to spell out exactly your wishes, how you want things to go to the people that you want them to go to in the most efficient way possible, people start fighting over things they never worked for, never even knew existed. So in that case, you have to collaborate with other professionals. And I'm saying that because it's really key. It's part of our fiduciary responsibility to make sure that we're doing what's right for you as the client. And you look at all these stories and say, you know what, Isidore, how can you do all these things all together? And honestly, no, I can't do them. And quite frankly, no financial planner really can do all of these areas and be good at it. We have enough experience that we deal with a lot of these things. We're not expert in really any of them, but we have enough experience and enough resources around us to be able to put together a plan that works for the people that we're working for or working with. So when it comes to estate planning, I had to partner up with attorneys, qualified estate planning lawyers that will help me put together estate planning documents for my client to make sure that things are protected for them. I had to work with CPAs that really have conversation with me, conference call meetings with my client to figure out how to deal with taxes, how to deal with planning taxes for now while they're still living, planning taxes for later when they go into retirement, and planning for taxes for when they pass away and leave things for the children, the family, or charity, church, fire department, whatever the case is, whatever makes you feel good and makes you feel like you having a positive impact in your community and you want to send your asset to. Those are really the professional you bring in place to make sure those things happen according to your wishes. You look at risk management. Yes, I can sell life insurance. I can do disability. I can do long-term care. I don't know a lot about property and casualty. I have the license for it. I never sold one. So I'm not going to pretend that I know how to put together a home or homeowner or auto insurance. So I had to partner up with somebody who's good at that, that's their expertise. If the client have one, I will get the client permission to talk to that guy to figure out how we can address the recommendations that I put together. And if they don't have one, I'll get the permission to refer them to one they can use. Same thing goes for the investment. I do investment. I can do it to a certain level. When you get to a certain amount, so to speak, it's above my pay grade. So I will have to ask the client the permission to bring in somebody else who can handle that level of money or investment to be managed going forward. And I think people appreciate that. People appreciate that you're not trying to be the jack of all trades. And you upfront with them and you're very transparent in what you do. And that being said, it really creates a certain level of trust that you can really build on going forward, because honestly, it's not easy to talk about money. It's not easy to talk about the things that go on in your life. It's not easy to talk about your debt. It's not easy to talk about all those things, family dynamic. So when you open up to someone about those things that make you quite vulnerable, you want to open up to somebody that you know you can trust. And that first trust is a blind trust, mind you. My job, and I always tell my client, is that my job is really to manage the expectation and manage the expectation to the point where you really never have to question why you trusted me in the first place. Because the numbers, the others thing, we got software to do all that stuff. You know, the pond is big enough that all of us financial advisors can go in and fish any mutual fund, any life insurance that we want. And the slash is big enough for us to also be able to share the expertise to bring what's best to our client. So you look at all these things and you say, well, how does it work? So when someone comes to me, They come to me really for three reasons. One is they haven't done anything. They're trying to figure out where or how to start. Second, they've done something that's been a while. They're not sure whether it's still working. They wanted to make sure they either get a confirmation it still work or get a confirmation, hey, maybe they need adjustment to be made. And the other one is you have someone that you're working with, you're happy with them, you like them, you grow, you have grown together to like each other and actually appreciate the work they bring to the table, but you have outgrown them but don't want to get rid of them. So you want to bring somebody like me on as an additional resource to be able to get you to the finish line. So those are the three main ways that people typically will engage my services. So, and what I'm about to show you now is, you probably wonder, well, how does all these things, all these areas that I just mentioned, how do they all tie together? What does it look like when somebody does something like that? And I'm gonna show you, and Rudy, tell me if this screen comes up when I bring it up.
Yeah, I see the screen.
Yeah, so you see Frank and Joanna?
Yes.
Okay. So what you're looking at here is an example of what a financial plan looks like. So this person over here, and don't pay attention to the number. This is just a case study that I use to show the power of financial plan. So this person over here, they're married, they got 2 children, they're in their early 50s. They got a whole bunch of things. They didn't know how all these things really work, what it's gonna look like, what it's gonna do for the future. They're good saver, and they build a pretty good life for themselves. But they make decisions they don't really know how it affects the bottom line, how it affects the family, how it affects future things they wanted to do. So they got investment, they got insurance, they got some money in the bank, they have a business they run. And basically the idea here is that, well, when they die, they want to leave money for the children. Part of what some of the things they wanted to do, which is, their goal, and I will kind of show you the things that we talked about, what we went through. Part of some of the things they want to do, and this is relatable to any of you guys that have families that deal with the things that these guys are dealing with. Part of their goal is that the parents are getting, especially the husband, mother, it's up there in age. She can't really move around very much. They're thinking about, what if we bring her in to live with us? What is that going to look like? They're thinking about, well, we're not sure if we saved enough and we want to retire at 65, but we're not sure that's going to happen. What is that going to look like if we do that? And, we have a home that we live in, and we have a vacation home that we have as well. We don't know if we should keep it or should we sell it when we retire. And the big thing that's really important for them, they want to take vacation. They want to go away and then spend time with family and grandkids. And they don't know if they spend the amount of money they have in mind for this vacation, how does it affect everything else? So as I'm going through this stuff, you probably see me and say, you know what? These are the things that I think about as well. I don't know if we're ever gonna be financially responsible for a family member. Take care of mom, take care of dad. And how does it affect you guys from work and your availability, your income and things like that? Maybe we have a home that we don't know we should stay in because we just don't want to do the maintenance. It's too big to stay in it. Maybe I want to get a condo. Those are decisions we all had to make at one point. And most of the time we make them not knowing how it's actually gonna affect us, how it's gonna either hurt us or help us. So what I'm gonna wanna go over here is that these are the things that these people talk to me. They have family members that live well into to the age 100. So there's a good chance they might also live, well into the 100. So according to everything that we've done, it looks like they may not be able to do that. So those blue lines kind of show that the plan is not going to work as things stand now. And that's how, so looking at that, things are not going to work out. on top of that, they wanted to retire at 65. So I ran this scenario and it looks like they may not be able to do that. So some of the recommendation, and you can see how that works over here, that we're recommending they retire 3 years later. So if I turn 3 years on, you show them what is that gonna do. And anything that shows up on this graph that's green shows you that things are gonna be working exactly the way they wanted to if they made these changes. So if they work 3 more years and retire 3 years later instead of 65 or 60, 63, 62, this is what it does to their life. This is what it does to their portfolio, how much money they gain by doing that. And if they want to take care of mom, both of them mom, and they're going to be spending $60,000 a year for the next 8 years, what does that look like if they do something like that? So I'm going to turn that on because I read that scenario for them. And you can see how that is actually affecting the bottom line. It's actually taking a lot more money out of pocket. And if they actually retire at the age they wanted to retire and just support moms at the money they're spending, I can tell them that maybe that's not going to work. And it's noble. It's really a noble thing for them to do, to want to take care of their parents, but maybe it's not $60,000 that we need to spend. Maybe it's not 8 years that we need to do it for. We need to figure out a different way to do it. So I just want to go over, one of those two things to show you the power of having a plan. And part of this is to figure out, well, what if we take Social Security early? What does that do? And especially we're going to live a lot longer. So I ran a scenario to show them what is taking the Social Security early would do for their plan going forward. And you can see it's going down and down. It's actually making the situation worse. So those are the things that I go over client to show them in real life, real time. Whenever they're making a decision, they can call me and say, hey, I'm trying to buy a house. I'm trying to buy a new car. I'm trying to pay my kids' car for my kids' college. Should I do it? Does it make sense for me to do this thing? Does it make sense for me to take, pay this out of pocket? Or does it make sense for me to finance some of it? And these are the things that I go through with clients to show them whether something is going to work or something is not going to work. Keep in mind, COVID happened and changed a lot of things. A lot of people weren't prepared, and to deal with this type of event, and it really affected them. But also, it shows another side of why it's good to be planning for the future. It's also good to be enjoying your life now. Figure out what the right middle ground is to be able to do things for the future, but also enjoy life as it is now. I'm a big proponent of it makes no sense to save all your life and get to a point where you do all that stuff, but you actually don't end up enjoying it because you died too soon. So it's finding the right balance. So for me, that's what, when you're working with advisors and you hear, okay, I'm a financial planner, or I'm a financial advisor, whatever the case is, especially if they say they're a financial planner, you want to see them take you through a process like this, something that's comprehensive, something that is looking to every aspect of your life. Mind you, it doesn't mean you have to do everything all at once, but you at least know what you don't know, and you can start working on that. So part of my challenge to you guys as you listen to this speech is, if anything that you can do is go home, dust everything that you already done. If you haven't done one, that's not the end of it. It's probably the best thing, because you're getting started on a clean slate. It's dust everything that you've done and then really find somebody, whether it's me or somebody who does what I do, and at least get the conversation started. All this stuff that I just went over with you guys, we all think it. We want to buy a car. We want to buy a house. We got children that you kind of worry, hey, what if I die tomorrow? What is that going to do to my wife? What is that going to do to my husband? What is that going to do to my children? Are they going to be able to grow and have the life that I wanted for them? And those things are really important decisions. It's not just for rich people. All of us go through those things, but sometimes we do them on impulse. We do that because we want it. We buy a car because we want the car, not because we needed it. You know, we instead of buying a Nissan, you're going to buy a BMW. Does it really add value to your life by doing that? Maybe not. So sometimes it makes sense to do this plan to kind of figure out what is a good place to spend money, and what are places you spend money that actually not helping you, that you can redirect those money to somewhere that actually does help, bring value to your client, to your family, help you achieve the things that you want to achieve in life, and still enjoy today as you live through life and still working and do things like that. So that is truly my challenge to all of you guys. Find someone who's competent, who you can build a long-lasting relationship with, and then for once, if you haven't done it in your life, be vulnerable. I mean, most of us that do this work, we're not here to judge you guys. We just want to listen and figure out what we can do together. It's a partnership between us and you to figure out how can we make your dream, your goal become reality without having too much pain. And that's really the at the end of the day, the goal of what we do is that we want to be there for you to handle the things that you know are important to you so that you can focus on what you're good at, whether it is being a janitor, whether it is running a business, whether it is being a motivation speaker, whatever that is that you do that makes you feel whole and happy and feel that you contribute to society. You should have a clear mind to go do that, knowing that you got somebody that you partner up with to take care of those aspects of your life that probably give you anxiety that you never wanted to talk about, but you know they're important to you, that you need to address. So that would be my challenge to you guys today, for my time today, of what I will strongly suggest and recommend that you do, is to find somebody that you can trust, that you can have this conversation with, and it's like dating. You go through this and you see maybe they're helping you. If they're not, you have the power to fire them and go find somebody else who can do that. But you got to start with a conversation with someone who does what I do, to really start having those uncomfortable conversations, but necessary. So that's my time today. Thanks for having me. I enjoy coming back to this series, and I'm hoping to do more of this. Maybe not necessarily on holistic, everything holistic, but also on specific topic that any of you guys would like me to talk about. So thanks for having me. I really appreciate that.
My name is William Thompson. I am the president and CEO of Total Life Care. And today I'm here with you to talk about some scenarios that have occurred or stories that have occurred in my lifetime, being an insurance agent and working through the funeral homes with some situations that we've had some issues due to not being financially prepared for a loved one to transition unexpectedly. And so whether that's a savings account, whether that's just having money in your checking account, whether that's not enough money on your credit card, or just not having life insurance period or a pre-plan in place. These are the scenarios and storylines that I'm going to share with you. But before I do, I want to thank God first and foremost for me to be allowed to have this opportunity. But I also want to thank Christian Men Inc. for having me yet again. These gentlemen are fine men of all ages, and I just want to thank again Christian Men Inc. for allowing me to be a part of this symposium. And so, without further ado, I'm going to start. Throughout my lifetime in terms of the funeral world, my first situation that it came to me, and it was actually really gut-wrenching. This was during COVID. And so who can imagine, right, that the world would have shut down March of 2020? But it did. And with the world shutting down came a lot of people transitioning at a rapid rate. With that being said, my first story was, we had a family come in. The uncle passed away. We took care of him. They said he passed away due to COVID. Not a problem. We took him to the cemetery. A week later, the nephew unexpectedly transitioned due to violence. This is during the rioting and things of that nature. They had no money for him in terms of an insurance policy, but they did have enough money for his cremation. A week later after that, the same family comes in because the matriarch of the family, the grandmother, passed away. They thought she had 3 policies in place. She borrowed from 2 of them, and a third one lapsed. No insurance. The matriarch of the family now has to be cremated because they do not have the funding to make sure that their matriarch is taken care of. Not that anybody else was any less significant. But ladies and gentlemen, let's just think about the matriarch of your family. Okay? She's lived her best life. She served everybody in the family. And because of COVID, back to back to back, the same family came 3 times in 1 month. 2 of the 3 passed due to COVID. And I'm pausing myself because I want y'all to understand, when you sit down with a family on the opposite side, they're not even done grieving over the first loss of the uncle. Now the nephew, now the matriarch, the grandmother, the entire family, completely emotionally wiped out, financially wiped out, and they have no other way. They can't give her the traditional service that she asked for because they can't afford it. Because there was no agent that did a policy review for her policies. There was no one in the family that knew well enough to know to make sure these things are in place. So now, as a part of the funeral home, what do? You can give the best options in terms of financial funding as possible, but they still have to have the proper approval or wherewithal to obtain it. It hurt to see them grieve the way that they did. So I'm telling you, for all that are out there, if you have anyone in your family that has policies and they have not been reviewed within the past 2 years, they need to be reviewed because had grandma had the policies reviewed years ago, they would have knew about the problems. But they didn't know what they didn't know. On top of the fact that they were already grieving over their other loved ones. Let's now, with this information from my mouth to your ears, be a part of your story as we move forward. My second one, this one was, family was all across the country, okay? When I say all across the country, I mean Florida, Texas, California, and everybody had an opinion about how mom, who transitioned during, again, this COVID season, but it wasn't due to COVID, it was due to cancer. But when she transitioned, her husband, who by marriage in the country, Egypt, okay, where it was not honored here in the United States, and the kids were of her lineage, not of his. This is her second marriage. The policy was in his name, and they wanted him not a part of any of it. So therefore, they had no insurance. They thought mom had all of it taken care of, but she didn't. They couldn't get into the house to see what mom had in the savings accounts because he wasn't letting them in, because they wouldn't allow him to be a part of it. And no one else was trying to come off financially to support mom. We told the family, hey, listen, no worries. We'll hold mom. We'll make sure she's well preserved and everything is well. You just we got to get y'all together to be able to come, so you can have the proper service. The husband wanted her to be buried in a natural burial ground. The kids wanted her to be buried in the family cemetery area. But again, no one was coming up with the finances to make either one of them happen because there was a stalemate due to family issues. We did end up eating that. And what I say that as a funeral home, we did end up eating some of the pricing on that because she was with us for so long, and there's an expiration date to a time that we just want to make sure that the family moves forward. So we did move the family along. However, at the end of the day, she had no life insurance. She had no burial plan. There was no preset way that she wanted her final arrangements to be taken care of. So now we have a stalemate of ideas, a stalemate of emotions, a stalemate of thoughts and feelings that at the end of the day became about them and not about her. But because she had no arrangements in place, it was never going to be about her. It was always going to be about the opinion of what the children and the husband wanted. And since those two cannot agree, we now have chaos in the midst of the last time mom arrangements can be taken care of as her send-off. Ladies and gentlemen, I need us to again think about that. When you do not plan, you have already planned to fail. Not that you did it on purpose, but you could not tell anyone one day you wake up and you're diagnosed with cancer. You don't see it coming. It just happens. We think we're going to beat it, and we may not. But in the meantime, as we're grieving while you're alive, we're not preparing because we're still scared to face the inevitable that can happen. So now, ladies and gentlemen, it happens. No financial resources, conflict of interest. Still no unison on mom's homegoing service. Help me understand why we can't figure that out. When we've set our emotions to the side, what is more important? How you feel or what is right by mom? My third scenario, another hospice, home hospice. This one really got to me too. She transitioned. The brothers and the sisters all came in. They were all trying to work together, right? But she never had a policy in place. They weren't worried about the arrangements. Okay, they all were in agreement on loving on their sister to make sure that she had a place to be memorialized and honored. The problem is they didn't have the money. So every day, one of the brothers or one of the sisters would come in and give $10 here. Some people would donate $50 here, $25 here, and they wanted a traditional service. That was never going to happen. So we told them, no worries. Like I told you before in the previous scenario, we'll take care of your sister. She's with us. It's already a hard time during the pandemic, okay? A lot of people are not working. Some were not getting the pandemic unemployment, okay? Rubbing 2 nickels together to make ends work. It was a very, very hard time. And that is why I said earlier, if you've not planned your future, you have planned for failure. And it's not to be rude or disrespectful, but COVID opened up the world as it shut down the world to the thought process that you are not promised tomorrow. Some would say, oh, well, the funeral home did great. That's not why we're there. We were working around the clock to serve families at the most interruptive time, probably in my entire life, in my 36 years, and for a lot of people that are older than me. Ladies and gentlemen, do you understand? I just gave you 3 scenarios where loved ones could not be properly memorialized to the extent that they deserved because of the lack of preparation. Not because they didn't care, because you did not prepare. We have to take our minds and say, if I'm willing to pay cell phone insurance, I'm willing to pay car insurance, I'm willing to pay homeowners, renters, any tablet or device that we have or electronic that we have in the house. Why don't I have a plan for when I can't plan for myself anymore? Is it a tough conversation? Yeah, but it's a necessary one. Because if you don't, the 3 scenarios that I just gave you is exactly what's going to happen. I stand by it. I guarantee it. We must be able to prepare for ourselves, or whatever is available will be given to you at that point, whether you like it or not. Now imagine how your children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, uncles, aunts, so forth, whomever it may be that's related to you or in close relationship, how must they feel knowing they cannot give you what it is that they know you really wanted? Let's just take a few seconds to think about that. Why can't I give what is deserved? That is because we did not plan when we had the opportunity to, because we thought we would live forever, and we never thought that we would run out of time so fast. Time is relative. Time is of the essence. We live to see tomorrow, but tomorrow is not promised. So plan today. Plan now. Ladies and gentlemen, this is William Thompson, President and CEO of Total Life Care. I need you want you to understand how important this is. It's not about the money. It's about what happens when the money's not available for your family when it's most needed. That's what we want to take care of. That's what we need to take care of. That's the imperative point of this entire 3-scenario conversation. Christian Men Inc., it's been a blessing. I thank you again for having me. Take care. In conclusion, what we're talking about today is talking about getting your house in order. If your house is not in order, it is destined to crumble. If you don't check your foundation of your house, if the foundation crumbles, the walls come down, the roof begins to cave in, right? Getting your house in order starts with the mindset of the ability to provide, right? If I don't provide resources to my family or to my home, which means fixing things, right? That are issues in your house, the house will fall apart, correct? The same thing for your family and your lifestyle. If I do not plan for the success of my family, in the event that something happens to me, then my family is destined for problems, unforeseeable problems, because I didn't take the time to do the maintenance on my life, on my family's life, to ensure a brighter future. Let me make this quite simple. If you don't repair the wall, the load-bearing wall and beam in your house, what happens to the structure of your house? If you don't maintain or maintenance your home, right? It falls apart. If you don't fix the roof that has the leak, the water runs down the side of your house and it tears up the wall. Then you've got squirrels coming in. You got all types of outside influences coming into your house, tearing up your house from the outside in. And now it's going to cost you astronomically more than what it ever should have, because you tried to ignore it and said, I'll get round to it. Now you have a whole side of your house about to fall apart, and they're telling you that the homeowner's insurance isn't going to cover it. Or, that's right, you was going to get round to it and you don't have none. So you're not fixing it. So I'm going to say this again. Our theme is get your house in order. You have to put the plans in place for you and your family, because if not, as we as men, the head, you know how they say in movies, if you take off the head, the body will fall. Men, we have to do what is necessary to keep our family, our house in order. We have to give them a blueprint. So that's your life insurance, your burial planning, okay? So they don't have to guess. That's your homeowners, your car, anything that needs to be taken care of, any event of an accident or something unforeseeable, you are protected. Your family's protected. So we must, without question, always put our best foot forward and have our house in order. And from there, we can adjust how we need to adjust. But first, the house has to be in order. And we can do that by having these programs, these conversations, speaking with Christian Men Inc., talking about getting your house in order. If you don't know how to, you can find out how to. So there's no more excuses. Thank you.
Greetings, everyone. I'm Stanley H. Green, and I am excited to have this opportunity presented by Christian Men, Inc. in the Get Your House in Order sessions. I'm really excited that I have an opportunity to share with you an element of how you can get your house in order. And this relates to our mindset, our mental well-being. We're hearing so much about that these days, and I'm going to, in just a few minutes, give you a sense of evidence-based inner strengths and skills that you can actually build to help you mentally, help you get stronger. And of course, there are these 7 elements of faith and family and finance. This one is personal development. How can we help you to be the best that you can be mentally, get you stronger and enable you to bounce back from any adversity faster? I've been at this for about 10 years now, and prior to that, going all the way back, I grew up in Philadelphia, attended a public school, and had the opportunity to attend the University of Pennsylvania. I was recruited by a gentleman by the name of Chuck Daly, who went on to fame in the NBA and coached the Detroit Pistons, the Bad Boys, with 2 NBA championships, and then of course the Dream Team in 1992 with Magic, Bird, and Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, and all of those guys. And so I had the honor of playing for men, but I learned a lot in those experiences and growing up in Philadelphia, West Philadelphia, North Philadelphia. My high school, Germantown High, had 7 gangs, and this was in the early 70s when people think that there's a lot of gun violence now. There was a lot of violence back then, and somehow we had to navigate through it. So while I have a company that acquired the assets of another company called Reflective Learning that had the intellectual property rights, they came out of the University of Penn's Positive Psychology Center. Fact is that, like many people watching this, I came from, challenging beginnings where Dad left me and my 5 siblings and my mom, and she had to call on her own resilience, which is what we'll talk about tonight, to get us all through it and to keep us focused. And so I'm really proud that I had the opportunity to wind up going to an Ivy League school, coming out and running companies and being involved in Verizon, and then as a 33-year-old being a general manager of a cable TV system that we turned around, then running a synthetic turf company. I was the president of a company called The Box. It was a music video channel that we sold to MTV. I created a news channel called TSM. If you ever look up the Comcast network in Wikipedia, you'll see the reference to the company that I created called Tri-State Media, TSM News, that became part of Comcast. I was a deputy treasurer for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I crammed about 3 lifetimes of careers into one. But what's most important is where I came from. So what I want to share with you are some skills that I am confident that if you can build these and work through these, that you can accomplish anything. You can bounce back from any challenges in your personal life, challenges in professionally, doing the kinds of things or trying to accomplish big things. You can do all of that with the power of your own thinking. So let's do this. I'm going to go to my slideshow here, and we will move right in and start with something that I think is very critical that we all need to understand. This is a concept. You can Google this. It's called learned helplessness. And you'll learn about the gentleman, the young psychologist in the late 60s that had this theory around learned helplessness. He came up with the name. And basically what he said was really powerful. And I want you to think about our community in general, in particular. He said that learned helplessness was this condition that people suffer from, where they feel this sense of powerlessness, which arises from a traumatic event or persistent failure to succeed. Persistent failure to succeed. And how many times have people tried things and then they just gave up? And when you told them, look, you got to try this again. Look, I tried it all. It's not working. It hasn't worked, so I'm not even going to try anymore. It's thought to be one of the underlying causes of depression. So just as this gentleman, Dr. Martin Seligman, did prove in that there is something called learned helplessness. You know people, family members, friends, and maybe even yourself from time to time that may have fallen into this state. But I would argue that we have an entire community that has learned to be helpless. And even though there are ways that we all can bounce back and succeed, there are many people that don't think that it can happen. So what I want to share with you is that there are inner strengths that have been identified through Penn's research. They focused on and studied this thing called learned helplessness. And then they said, well, if people can learn to be helpless, can they learn to be the opposite? Can they learn to be more optimistic? Is that a learned skill as well? And they actually identified 7 inner strengths such that if you were strong in these 7 areas, and I'd like you to take notes, then you can bounce back from any adversity faster. And I'm going to run you through these. Now, through this short presentation, you're not going to be able to walk away and say, okay, you know what, I can bounce back from any adversity faster, because it takes repetition, it takes skill building. And we'll get into that as well and how you can build those skills. So the first inner strength, think about it. When you're down, things are not going well, there's emotions that are triggered. 5 big negative emotions. You can be angry, there's sadness, there's guilt, there's embarrassment, and then there's anxiety that people experience. Those are the 5 big negative emotions. And our goal is to help you to regulate those emotions, to mitigate or reduce the amount of negative emotions like anger and anxiety. And so that speaks to this first inner strength of resilience, which is emotion regulation, the ability to stay calm under pressure, regardless of what's going on. Now, the second inner strength that can help you bounce back from any adversity is impulse control. And that is the ability not to say or do the first thing that comes to mind. How many violent situations or situations where it's going out of control in a marriage or in a relationship because of those 2 things: emotion regulation, lack of emotion regulation, and a lack of impulse control. Next is empathy, the feeling that you understand another person's experiences and emotions. The 4th inner strength is a big one, self-efficacy. That is the belief that you have control over your ability to succeed. If you don't believe that you can make it, you're in trouble right off the bat. Next, related to self-efficacy, this belief that you can do it, is optimism, which is the view that all things will ultimately have a successful outcome. So think about those 5 inner strengths so far. If you are, really strong in these areas, you would agree you can bounce back from whatever goes on. It could be a loss of job, it could be a loss of a loved one. You'll bounce back faster. Next is causal analysis, a systematic way of finding the root cause of a situation or problem. How many people kind of just operate at the surface and not really ask these 5 whys? So why did this happen and why did that? And you drill down until you get to the bottom of it. And then this is the big one, folks. We're dealing with men, Black men in particular, and this was a tough one for us because we may see reaching out to people for help as a weakness when it is really a strength, a powerful strength, taking the initiative to connect with others and to take action when faced with problems. So how do we build these strengths? We do it through the identification and the building of skills. We won't spend a lot of time on them, but I want to run through them so that you are now aware. First is the skill of ABC, understanding the relationship between A, what happened to you, B, the belief about what happened to you, and C, the consequence or that negative emotion. The example I usually give is somebody getting cut off on the road. That's the adversity. If you're driving down the road, what happens? Somebody cuts you off. And we usually go from A directly to C, the adversity to the consequence, the anger, the negative emotion. But what we fail to realize is that when we drill down, it was the belief about what happened to us. If we believe that somebody intended to hurt us, then we're going to be angry. But if we change that belief, well, maybe they didn't see me. Maybe they were just in a rush to get to see a loved one who may be dying in the hospital. Then all of a sudden, that negative emotion, that C, that consequence goes away. So it is our beliefs about what happens to us that can actually drive whether we have the significant negative emotion or none at all. The second skill that we teach people, and we do this every Wednesday with these 30-minute calls that I'd love for you to be a part of, it is avoiding thinking traps. And there are 8 different thinking traps identified by a psychologist by the name of Dr. Aaron Beck. Think about this now. See, we experience, and our brains are processing 50,000 thoughts a day. Typically 70 to 80% of those thoughts are negatives. Many times we fall into these thinking traps. We jump to conclusions about things. We beat ourselves up too much, personalizing. We externalize, blame others. We minimize and magnify. We minimize the positive, but we magnify, make a mountain out of the molehill when it comes to the negative. We mind read. We think we know what someone else is thinking, or we expect them to know what we're thinking. We overgeneralize, and how much of, think about what's happening with African-American men and how authorities overgeneralize about them. There's tunnel vision and emotional reasoning. But then the next skill is detecting these big iceberg beliefs. It's not what's happening above the surface, but below in our hearts. These deep-rooted, long-held beliefs about ourselves and the world. And then we have to get into skill number 4, how we challenge these beliefs, push back on them so that we can grow and change. That leads us to number 5, how we put things in perspective. It's not the end of the world. The sun will come out tomorrow. Then there's calming and focusing. When we're hit with that adversity, first thing, take that deep breath. 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, to calm ourselves down. And then 7 is real-time resilience. How we can bounce back. When we perfect these other skills, we can bounce back in real time. Because at the end of the day, life is not about how fast you run, how high you climb, but it's how well you bounce back. And the reality is, with what we do, we're acknowledging that most of our beliefs and our habits that are formed by the time we're about 8 years old, and we live the rest of our lives that way. But the goal is, I don't care where you are in the life cycle, we can retrain your brain in just a few short months where you think very differently. So our expectation is that you not only take this and become more aware of the control and the power that you have to change things, but that you can get on our Wednesday calls. And I'll leave your phone number. You can write this down, 215-219-8409. 215-219-8409. Text me your first and last name. I'll get you on a list to send you a text reminder about our Wednesday calls, 7:30 to 8 a.m. on Eastern time on Wednesdays, and then Wednesday night, 9:30 p.m. to 10 p.m., where every week on a Tuesday night, we'll send out a video to you, and a short video, 2 to 5 minutes, where we'll focus on a particular skill. I can guarantee you, because I've had all the testimonials, to 3 to 6 months on these calls consistently, you will find yourself responding differently to any of life's adversities. And just like Serena Williams, who for 20 plus years has practiced and practiced and won, we have to practice these skills, these mental skills that I shared with you to improve. So finally, I've had a person share with you a quick story. One of the people that benefited is a gentleman who was working for Comcast for 30 years, and then in his 50s was laid off, and thought, you know what, nobody's going to hire me. what am I going to do? I have a child in college and so forth, and started attending my calls and was able to change his perspective about things and recognize that he still had value and he believed in himself. You know, when he went out to get a job, he actually, within a few short weeks, was able to get 3 job offers and then picked up the job. And he, you know, came back, was so thankful for what we were able to do to help him change his thinking about himself and his ability to succeed. So again, I want to thank the Christian Men, Inc. and you know, really thank you all for what you're doing to get your house in order. And we are, again, giving you just a small piece that can have a big impact as it relates to getting your house in order. Again, Christian Men, Inc., thank you very much for inviting Power Thinking and myself, Stanley H. Green. We appreciate you.
Hello, this is Tony Poblador. First of all, I'm blessed to be presenting this information and to thank you, Christian Men Inc. for this wonderful invitation here. And it's an opportunity to share an important information about how to protect your future. By the way, our short topic today is about planning for long-term care. And hello, this is Tony Poblador. First of all, I'm blessed to be presenting this information and to thank you, Christian Men Inc. for this wonderful invitation here. And it's an opportunity to share an important information about how to protect your future. By the way, our short topic today is about planning for long-term care. And of course, I would like to, reach out to get your house in order. Folks there, especially men, that there's some important things that I want you to take note here in the next 15 minutes. And this is quite important for our future. So by the way, let me just throw one question here. Do you know anything about custodial care? It may sound like, what is a custodial care? Because it's a nice introduction here, because this custodial care is the things that we do day in and day out. These are the most important basic duties or functions that we do as human beings here, especially when we get up in the morning. So I'll cite the first one among 6. How about eating? That's a basic function. Bathing. Third one is dressing. Next one is transferring. Imagine like you're getting out of bed, you move from your bed to your chair. Of course, each time, maybe early in the morning, anytime you need to do toileting. The 6th important function or activity that we do is walking around, walking around. So those are actually termed under what you call custodial care. So imagine any one of those activities you are not able to do because, let's say, you hurt your leg, or you have a stroke, or you went to an accident. Worse is, let's say, you went to a hospital, and then after a certain number of days, say 90 days, and then, your plan says, you know what, you're bound for long-term care or extended care. So the next thing is going to happen is you have to spend time at home or in nursing home. So that's what you call custodial care. And the topic we'll talk about is how can you address long-term care when custodial care will not be covered by your health insurance. And I'll talk a little bit later on about Medicare. So first thing we have to talk about is connecting to you to what matters most. You see, the need for long-term care, especially nowadays, especially as people age longer, has the potential to derail your plans and then impact your connection to the things that matter most. Of course, we know when somebody is sick, when grandma is sick, whatever, or mom has a stroke, it affects three major things: the family, of course, your home, of course, and the number one actually aspect where people need to pull money out is from your retirement account, which is your nest egg. Who needs it? That's a very, very good question to start with. No one knows what the future holds in store. As people age, of course, it's natural that they may need help with things they once were able to do for themselves. And nowadays, you encounter people, the younger ones, going through accidents and injuries. It can happen to a 25-year-old kid, and they may need long-term care. So you know what? Thinking about long-term care is quite a very emotional aspect. So let me throw you some of these questions because it did happen to me also before my mother-in-law passed away. So questions like, who in your family needed long-term care? What happened and who provided the care? Those are questions that you need to think about. Who paid the bills? At the end of the day, money is always involved. The financial aspect is very important. Were there any strains in the family? I remember when going to my mother-in-law when she passed away 6 years ago. She was a very nice person. She took care of my younger daughter, but when, you know, her mental capacity deteriorated, I didn't blame her, but it was tough. It was very stressful for me and my wife. If you have children, can they take care of you? Those are questions you need to know. Will they be comfortable using your savings, my hard-earned money, to pay for my care? So, I mean, especially in the Medicare world, where I specialize in Medicare, you know, people realize, hey, maybe the Medicare will take care of my long-term care. Actually not. For custodial care, remember those 6 activities of daily living? I repeat, eating, bathing, dressing, transferring, toileting, all of these things, your first custodial care, are never covered under Medicare. So, you know, it's so, when I look back before, when my grandmas were alive, I remember how hard it was having grandma to live with you, right? I mean, we prefer her to live at home, but eventually she had to go to the nursing home. Sometimes, you know, my younger son had to give up his room. It's tough, you know. You know, when somebody needs long-term care, it can happen to me. I mean, of course, we may have only 2 bathrooms at home. It's pretty tight, you know. So these are questions we need to think about, especially when the care comes around, and where would the money come from? And the most important thing is, do you have a plan in place ready? Now we have what you call the common myths about long-term care, which I already mentioned earlier. Well, people thought that your health insurance, my health insurance, covers long-term care services. No, they don't cover, again, they don't cover custodial care. Remember those 6 activities of daily living? Those are never covered by your health insurance or medical insurance. Now I mentioned again, Medicare will cover all my long-term care costs. That's not true. It will not cover custodial care. Remember, let me highlight again, custodial care can be provided by your family member. If you're married, your spouse, anything that's non-medical that can be provided, like like bathing you, feeding you, those are not covered by your health insurance, not covered by Medicare. And people think, oh, you know what, Medicare is the same as Medicaid. That's a totally different aspect. Maybe Medicaid can cover that, but there's something what we call spending your assets, which we won't talk about here later on. And people think, I'm too young to buy long-term care. As I told you, I have a client 15 years ago. He was less than 30 years old, hurt in an accident because they own a construction company. And this kid is about 20 years old, fell from the roof and paralyzed from his, lower body, and he cannot function anymore. He's on a wheelchair. It's a good thing the family purchased just a small amount of long-term care insurance before. At least it's better than nothing. But again, it can happen to any ages. Let's move on. Where are services provided? As a matter of fact, if you ask me, the people that they took care of long-term care, helped them plan through the years, they prefer having it at home. But again, people think, oh, you know what? The most common scenario is going to a nursing home. Yeah, but again, if you have properly planned for long-term care, you can have either way. You can have it at home with some number one place there, or any community center, assisted living facility, or nursing home. Now, we'll talk about numbers because it's always important to know about the cost, the manufacturer. So, we put their home health aid because let's say if you have just like an ordinary illness that you cannot probably bathe or eat, so you need a person like a home health aide or a nursing aide taking care of you. So nowadays, it's about $25 per hour. So you'll see the numbers there from the left on a yearly basis and a per hour basis. So you see there from the nursing home right to the private room, it costs more. Another question we have to think about is who will pay. I think I mentioned this earlier, because the funds where the money is coming from may not be available when you need them. And most of the time you may have to sell valued assets. Liquidating assets may trigger income taxes and result in the loss of future earnings because, it's an emergency. And that's the only way for some folks to really get some funds from. And then again, we can always talk about Medicaid, but not at this portion, because if somebody's qualified for Medicare and they may cover long-term care, then that's probably for those folks who have limited assets. After folks have spent down their assets, and those are some scenarios we could talk about later on. Another important question is, yes, I mentioned this earlier, how will you pay for long-term care? Well, I've mentioned here only about long-term care insurance and everything, but maybe some people have planned something like self-insured. I saved some money here, whatever, because I may use that money or funds later on when I or grandma or anybody should get sick. But again, it's always smart to get the help of a professional. Hey, you could leverage that money. I know it's not easy to save for long-term care because one important thing, no one knows when they will need long-term care. It can happen today or the next year or next 5 years. So my advice is protect a portion of your assets so you could use them as planned, and always stay connected to the things that matter most. Why is it important? Well, the practical ways to purchase a long-term care insurance. Again, I may say this may be appropriate for some people or maybe not for some people, but it's one of the I would say common way. If somebody has certain qualifications like health-wise, and if you have money set aside for insurance premium, then this could be a good one because it could pay a portion of your long-term care expenses and helps protect your retirement assets, allows you to spend your retirement the same way. In short, having a long-term care policy, because that's one of the goals I do, is to provide you what you call financial peace of mind. And at the same time, well, the goal of most customers that we serve is, you know what, I'd rather stay home because, which is good. So if you're planned for long-term care, especially if somebody has purchased a policy, it allows them to stay at home, that's great. But again, nowadays, with the high incidence of long-term care, because people are getting older, I tell not many insurance companies are really into the long-term care business, but there's a lot of hybrid ways that we could talk about, privately later on. And it could help you with household tasks like cleaning, meal preparation, help with personal tasks like bathing and dressing, providing you help for what you call the custodial or 6 activities of daily living. And of course, services that we provide by any licensed professional, home health aide, a nurse. And it can also provide you for, in some instances for special equipment like walker. And, can also do with your home modifications to enhance your ability to remain safe in your home. For taking money out of my policy, and that's one of the best ways, as a matter of fact. But either way, we can always discuss this on a person-to-person basis here. Depends on your specific needs. So let's talk again. I would like to address the get your house in order, especially the men, us here, that we can always tailor a long-term care policy or any long-term care planning. Because let's consider long-term care of one important aspect, and you should plan it seriously. Plan for it today, even though information that you need, always feel free to contact me. I'll be happy to help. My goal is to really reach out and educate everybody, because long-term care indeed provides a financial peace of mind. God bless everybody.
Hello, my name is Graham Woods. I am an entrepreneur. I grew up in the Philadelphia area, went to Temple University, lived my whole life out in the Germantown, Chestnut Hill, Mount Airy section of the city. And I've lived my life. My dad was an entrepreneur, taught me 90% of what I know. And then I had to go to school, get a little bit more. And I'm glad and thankful that I've been invited by Christian Men Inc. here to talk on the subject of getting your house in order. So my company, GS Woods Wealth Management, and my topic that I'm calling is value acceleration to achieve greater profits and liquidity. In lay people's terms, it may be, you may say how to get yourself liquid, whether you want to cash out or increase cash flow. So on a full introduction, I'm a wealth manager and investment banker focused on sell-side mergers and acquisitions. I work exclusively with business owners, entrepreneurs and their families, and managing their family enterprise. Normally I don't read off the screen like this, but I decided that I really wanted to share this information with everybody. So I just threw everything I was going to say right up on the screen. So I'll be reading it, but everything, if you want to come back to these slides later on, everything I say, most of it should be up here. I have a few disclosures that people need to know. That I am an investment advisor representative of GS Woods Financial Solutions, doing business as GS Woods Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor. And for investment banking, securities are offered through Finalis Securities LLC, member of FINRA and SIPC. GS Woods Financial Solutions LLC and Finalis Securities LLC are separate, unaffiliated entities. Some background on me. I got my MBA from Arcadia University in global business. For that, we got to travel to Singapore and Peru and get to see how people do business in different markets around the world. I got my bachelor's degree from Temple University. I am a chartered life underwriter, which means that I know way too much about life insurance, but I'm good at estate planning and knowing how to use insurance and doing underwriting to help people preserve their wealth. I'm a chartered financial consultant, which is good for financial planning, and I'm a certified exit planning advisor. My business is focused, again, mostly on entrepreneurs, business owners, and family-owned business. I passed level 1 of the Chartered Financial Analyst exam, which is equity analysts on Wall Street usually have a financial analyst charter, and a lot of the higher end wealth management advisors have a financial analyst charter. So it's a 3-level exam. I'm studying for level 2, and they consider that almost a master's level training. So it's very interesting, a lot of hard work. I'm a member of the CFA Institute and a member of GARP, which is the Global Association of Risk Professionals. I'm licensed in life, annuities, accident and health insurance, as well as property and casualty insurance. I hold a Series 65 investment advisor license and a Series 63 and Series 79 investment banking representative license. So for this talk, we're going to focus in on wealth management. There are in wealth management and in financial planning, which is kind of the wrapper around wealth management. There are about 7 or 8 areas that financial planners work on. In this talk, we're going to really look at retirement planning, estate planning, and value acceleration for business owners. So this I would consider advanced investment planning, and I'm going to tell you why in a moment. So for business owners, again, that's the market we're talking about. But I'm also talking about entrepreneurs, people that want to get there and are thinking about starting something. There are three major planning gaps. Excuse me. Three major planning gaps. They are the wealth gap, the value gap, and the profit gap. The wealth gap is the difference between your current net worth and the level of net worth needed to achieve your personal financial goals. That's especially with retirement living goals and with your estate or legacy plan. The value gap is the difference between the current business value, so the how much your business is worth right now, and the value of the businesses that are in best in class in their industry. So the top level, number one businesses. We look at business in terms of a value range. So you could be at the bottom or at the top, and ideally, your business should be, or we want to make it best of class, and we want that value to sit at the top of the range. And then there's the profit gap. And that's the difference between your current profitability your current business profitability and the profitability of businesses that are best of class in your industry. So when talking about retirement, your retirement and estate planning as a business owner are largely dependent on what you do to manage those three gaps. Now, I know that as a business owner, you're not going to invest your money into a retirement plan. It's the hardest thing to convince business owners to take cash that they want to put back into their business and then put it into a retirement plan. Real estate investors, they're the most difficult because in their mind, real estate is the greatest thing since sliced bread. So I'm not trying to convince you to do that right now, though you should consider adding that will help you cover some of your gaps. But you're a business person and an entrepreneur. You invest all of your money, time, and energy into your business. So to achieve your financial goals for retirement, which could include selling your business to do the next big thing, all you serial entrepreneurs know about that. I like to help owners manage their biggest retirement asset, and that's their business. I know a lot of guys go and say, yeah, I'm gonna build this business. They're 30 years old, 20 years old, 40 years old. And then when I retire, I'm gonna live the life. But they don't really have an idea of what that means. Once you build this business, how does that translate into actually taking out all the money and living the life? You're going to need liquidity for retirement. That can come from income from a highly profitable ongoing business, or from the transfer of all or part of your business to another party, whether that's to family, to a third party, private equity investors, another large company that wants to buy, to the management in the firm. You can do management buyouts, employee stock ownership plans, so you can help your employees buy the business from you. Those are all ways for owners to get a liquidity event to cash out of their business. From the estate planning side, liquidity needs could come at any time. You can experience any of what I call the 5 Ds. That's divorce, disaster. Look at COVID. I just spent the past 5 years in a part of Pennsylvania where they have floods every 5 years, and it wipes out entire neighborhoods. Disability, probably 1 in 3 people will experience some form of disability for a period of time during their lifetime, during their working life. Disagreement among co-owners. That's one of the biggest destroyers of business, when the partners decide that they no longer want to work together. Or death, and we don't know when that's going to happen. And if you want to leave something for your family that is profitable and working, That's something you should consider. So even if you never want to transfer your business in life, the need for value and value, if you could increase profits now instead of later, why not? Who doesn't like making more money? So the idea is, yeah, there's these things out there, these 5 Ds that no one likes to think about, and I understand that. But if what we're talking about, value acceleration, gets you to make more money, then why not do these things? That doesn't make any sense to not do it, not do this work. It's also apparent that a good estate plan is also a risk management plan, apparent from these 5 Ds. You need to protect business value, and you need to protect family wealth, because whatever you spent the past 20, 30, 40 years building can be wiped out in disability if you don't have a plan to have your business run while you're laid up at home or in the hospital. That could be the end of your business. Value acceleration, I meant to mention that a couple of times. That's something we need to work on. Businesses are valued based mostly on your cash flow. So we help you increase cash flow through, first, risk management. And when I say risk management, I'm not just talking about insurance. And my inner insurance agent doesn't like me to say that, but there's more to it. Managing your risk portfolio means mitigating some risks, but taking on other risks. So you might take on new, more profitable projects. Hiring a sales team, that's risky business. But if you find that rainmaker and he comes in and starts filling up your bank accounts, that was risk worth taking. We increase cash flow through managing income statements, managing your balance sheet, which includes your tangible and intellectual capital, and through managing what is commonly called the 4 intangible capitals: human capital, customer capital, structural capital, and social capital. Okay. The first, and it's debatable, but a lot of people are considering this one of the most important, and it's one of the biggest value killers in business, is the lack of management depth. A lot of you guys have these businesses where you are the sole owner, and you have no employees, and what you really have, it's a business, but it's also a job. And if you go out into the market and you say, yeah, I want to sell this business, no one's going to want to buy this business from you, because you as an individual, you have all the relationships, you have all the knowledge, the and know-how in the business. When you leave, the business is not going to exist anymore. There's even businesses out there where they have full teams, but the owners, they don't let their sales manager or their finance manager control anything. So when they leave, if they have a disability, or if they pass away, or if they sell out and move away, the business fails, because no one has all of the knowledge and skill or training to keep that business going. So human capital management is about building your business team of competent management employees, so that when you leave your business can continue to operate without you. This is desirable even before you're ready to exit, because this process builds value into your business, enables people that are looking in from the outside saying, hey, yeah, this is a business I can run. I can go to the beach. Imagine yourself going to the beach, and you don't have to worry about whether projects are being completed or if invoices are being sent. You know that you're still making money while you're taking a nap on the beach. We get you there by helping you build your team. And just as a tidbit, think about what would you do to attract and retain talent in your team? How are you going to get that rainmaker to join your business? How are you going to get that office manager or that financial manager that you're going to depend on to want to work in your business? And think about things like management employee development. What kind of training do these people need to be able to work at your level? Because as an entrepreneur, you guys, you have to admit that you work at a level that most people can't achieve without some extra training, some extra push. So that is the end. In conclusion, I just wanted to show this chart on the value acceleration process that I go through with my clients. Because I am a wealth management firm and investment banking, this is kind of the piece that meshes it all together. You see in the beginning, and under the discovery section, I deal with business valuation, help find the gaps, your profitability and your business value gaps. And then we also do a personal financial and business assessment for the owner and their family to find their needs and what do we need to do with this business to help them fulfill their financial goals and needs going forward. Then we develop an action plan, and a part of that action plan in the prepare section is dealing with de-risking, risk management, because risk can cause a decrease in value of your business. So we want to remove some of that risk. And there's ways we can do that by having more loyal employees, by purchasing insurance, by choosing better projects that have higher returns for the given level of risk. And then when you get to the end, as we get to the decide section, then you get to decide, do you want to keep doing this? Or do you want to grow? Or do you want to sell? Or what's the next step? Do you want to go out and go on a acquisition spree and start buying businesses to continue to grow? We don't know. We don't know until we start at the very beginning and do some type of assessment on your current situation. So I think that's it. If there's more time, I can go back and cover some more topics, but that's what I wanted to cover today. Thank you, Rudy.
So that'll roll. So you can go ahead and just pick up.
All right. So I wanted to go back and first share one of the things that got me to narrow my business focus. It was a sort of an aha moment, and it sort of took me several years of thinking about this. It kept coming back to me. It was a sad, disappointing tale. I had a client, and this was when I was working as a life insurance agent, that had a spouse pass away. And I'm trying to keep this as general as possible so I don't give away any identities. But the spouse was a contractor. He had long-term contracts with several universities and institutions to do work on buildings on their properties, and he had so 2-year, 3-year contracts, and then he passed away. And when he passed away, he didn't have an estate plan to deal with the business, and he didn't really leave instructions with his family on what they should do next. So it's sort of a continuity plan that he should have had in place along with his estate plan, business continuity plan. So when by the time the wife came to me, she had already spoken to accountants and attorneys, and no one could figure out how to help his business, because his business was the first problem from their eyes was that it was a sole proprietorship. And there's some complications that are involved when you pass away and a business goes into your estate. There are some legal complications that causes a question of whether or not the executor is allowed to even continue to operate the business. So really, they have a set amount of time to operate the business while they liquidate it, but no more than that. So unless you set up the business so that it survives you or survives your death, and you leave instructions that enable the business to survive that period when the executor is liquidating the estate, then there's nothing that they can do but sell everything off and the business. She came to me and asked, if I had any ideas. The first things, this was before I started dealing with this exit planning process, even before I was a chartered life underwriter. But I asked, well, what about the employees? Because they had long-term employees. I'm like, is there a foreman there or a senior manager that might be capable of taking over the business? Because what we can do is we can help use the proceeds of the business to help that person finance the purchase of the business, so that the spouse, she could cash out and then the business can continue. Other options, I really couldn't think of any that would really work in this case, because as a sole proprietorship, it wasn't a business. His equipment wasn't business equipment; it was his personal equipment. So there was nothing else there. So this is just an example of what could happen when someone passes away. Another story I remember hearing about was an engineer who did engineering consulting, and he had a team, but he had developed all of the marketing relationships. So no business came in unless he was there shaking hands. And he became ill and started, I think he had Alzheimer's or something like that, and got to a certain point where he was unable to work in a business. And he was unwilling before then to do what was necessary to help start transferring the business to someone else. So when it got to the point where he was unable to operate the business started hemorrhaging money to the point where it eventually went bankrupt. He was making, in the beginning when he was healthy, it was a multi-million-dollar business. He was bringing in 7-8 figures based on his engineering consulting, and then it went down to zero because he didn't have a plan. So what's important here, and because this topic is helping for men and young men getting your house in order, this is all about managing your wealth, your family wealth, and your family enterprise. I look at the business that you have, the assets that you have, your home, your car, your estate. If you're thinking about family, it's a family enterprise. If you're not thinking about family, but these are the things that are in your house. And we want to go back to focusing in on wealth management and talking about these topics that people need to look at: risk planning, education planning, getting yourself in a position to do the things that you want to do. It's okay to continue to go to school. I'm still learning. You would think I've learned enough, but I'm always there's always more that I don't know. Tax planning, choosing the right business form, or choosing the right place to have your business. Delaware, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. These are all critical aspects of business planning and personal planning. My wife was talking about looking for work in New Jersey, and I told her no, because I heard about the taxes in New Jersey. So I don't want to go to New Jersey. I want to stay in Pennsylvania so we could spend our money on us, not on who's the governor of New Jersey now. I don't know. And then retirement planning, you need to start now. Ideally, as soon as you get your first job, you need to start thinking about what you're going to do in retirement and how you're going to survive, because we don't know if there's going to be Social Security for you. Even if there is Social Security, I know from watching family and friends, Social Security is not enough to live comfortably in this day and age. You're looking at inflation risk. Just this last quarter, the first quarter, I think inflation was at 7 or 8%. We're accustomed to seeing 3% long-term inflation, 3.6, 3.7% long-term inflation. Inflation was double of what is the norm this past year. And so whatever you're looking at right now as how things cost, think about 30, 40, 50 years from now, how much that's going to cost if prices keep going up the way they are right now. And then you want to look at from not just if you're not running a business, but if you're just a regular person, investment planning. But investment planning, we want to look at investment and risk planning, because we look at in finance, we manage investments, we manage investment portfolios by measuring risk. So when you're looking at whether or not you're going to look at stocks or bonds, or you're going to buy real estate, we look at risk. So all of that starts to mix together when you start doing risks planning and insurance planning. I like to call it your risk portfolio, and allocating. We're not just allocating investments or looking for certain levels of return, but we're allocating risk in different parts of your financial plan to help you achieve your goals. So we're not looking to hit it out of the park with a 10%, 20%, 30% return on investment. We're trying to get you to hit your goals. So that's what I wanted to thank Christian Men Inc. again for this program. Get your house in order. This is some really important stuff, and I hope you guys take what I have and expand on it, and maybe come back and teach me something. Thank you.
Practicing law for over 30 years. And I would like to thank the Christian Men's Inc. for inviting me to participate in the 2022 Get Your House in Order program. And I would want to take this opportunity to talk practicing law for over 30 years. And I would like to thank the Christian practicing law for over 30 years. And I would like to thank the Christian Men's Inc. for inviting me to participate in the 2022 Get Your House in Order program. And I would want to take this opportunity to talk to you all about estate planning and the importance of doing so. So, what is an estate? Most people think that you need to have lots of money in order to have an estate. That is a misnomer. Every person has an estate if it's no more than just you. The question is, when we talk about estate planning, what do you want to have happen to you and yours in the event that you are no longer here or no longer able to make decisions for yourself? So every person, everything a person owns or controls at the time of their incapacity or death comprises their estate. That could be money, real property, personal assets, and business assets. And what's the estate plan? The estate plan is a set of documents that lays out what you want to have happen to your estate. And it covers, you know, your lifetime needs of the person doing the estate and his or her loved ones. And it would include things such as providing for your health care, managing your personal affairs, leaving a legacy for those that come behind you, managing and reducing federal and state taxes. Well, and how do you establish an estate plan? Again, an estate plan consists of a set of documents. And so you have to have these documents in order. One is a last will and testament. Another one is a living will or a healthcare directive. Another is a power of attorney. And then the fourth main document is a trust or trust. What do each of these do? Well, first, let's see, there are a couple of additional components for estate plans, and that would include any property that you own and how you own it, whether you own it in your name only or whether you own it in your name along with someone else. Examples of owning it in your name along with someone else would be if you owned it as joint tenants with rights of survivorship. It's important that it says joint tenants with rights of survivorship, because if it just says joint tenants, then that means that two people own the property, but if one dies, the survivor has their share, which is 50%, but not the share of the person who died. They only if it says joint tenants with rights of survivorship will the entire item pass to the survivor. Now, tenants by the entirety, on the other hand, is how when you buy a piece of property as a husband and wife, tenants by the entirety is the legal term for the ownership of that property. And it means that if either one of the spouses dies, the property passes to the survivor automatically. And another component of estate planning are beneficiary designations, and those are usually associated with life insurance policies, retirement plans, and financial institution accounts such as a brokerage account or other accounts, and that you would name a beneficiary who would receive that particular item upon your passing. So what is the function of the last will and testament? Well, a last will and testament provides instructions on what happens to items that you own that are owned in your name only. That's what a probate asset is. A probate asset is something that you own solely in your name. If you own something with someone else as a joint tenants with rights of survivorship, that's not a probate asset, and that asset would pass directly to the individual who's the survivor. Same thing if you own something and you have designated a beneficiary, that's not a probate asset either. It would pass directly to the beneficiary, right? So probate assets would be things that you own in your own name, or where there's no designated beneficiary, such as a checking account or savings account in your own name, or your automobile that's in your own name. A living will is sometimes referred to as an healthcare directive, and what that does is it identifies a person or persons that you want to make healthcare decisions for you in the event that you are incapacitated and cannot make those decisions for yourself. And so basically think of that as you name a person or persons who will talk to the doctor if you're in a coma or have had a stroke and can't talk for yourself, and hear what the doctor has to say and tell the doctor, yes, you agree with that recommendation, or no, you don't want to do that because you were told by the individual who made the healthcare living will that, you know, I don't want that in the case that I am in a coma, I don't want them to do this to me, or I don't want them to do that. So that's what a living will does. There's another document called a power of attorney. The power of attorney identifies the individual or individuals that you want to make business decisions for you in the event that you are incapacitated and can't make those decisions for yourself. By business decisions, I mean paying your bills, you know, entering into any legal arrangements, binding legal documents and things of that nature. The power of attorney allows an individual to do those things for you, as long as you are still alive. Both the living will and the power of attorney only are good as long as you are still living. Once you pass away, the will, the last will and testament comes to life, and then it controls everything having to do with you and your estate at the time you have passed away. If you don't have a last will and testament, then everything associated with you after you have passed away will pass or be distributed according to the laws of the intestate laws of the state of New Jersey. And that's usually not a good thing. So I've discussed, you know, the function of titled property. And basically the short way to think of it is that those things that are properly titled will pass directly to the individual that's named as the joint tenant or the survivor, and will not pass through the will. Those items that pass through the will are what are called probate assets. These two items, joint tenants with rights of survivorship and tenants by the entirety, they do not pass through the will. Another portion of estate planning are trusts, and you can use the trust to put assets into the trust so that you can reduce your estate taxes. If you have minor children, you can set up a trust prior to your demise. It's called a testamentary trust, and you identify this in the will, and it states who you want your children to, in the event that you and your spouse pass away together, who would be the caretakers for your children, and who would handle the money for the children until they reach the age of majority. You also can have a trust to manage the assets of an incapacitated person, to protect assets from income taxes for adult heirs, or to reduce the size of your estate to qualify for Medicaid. In order to qualify for Medicaid in New Jersey, you cannot have more than $2,000 in assets, and most people who are homeowners automatically have more than $2,000 in assets. And there are ways through proper estate planning to ensure that one could qualify for Medicaid if those steps are taken prior to a person's demise. So in summary, when we talk about estate planning, there are several documents, excuse me, just a minute. There are several documents that make up an estate plan. The last will and testament, the living will, power of attorney, trust, and how property is titled, and beneficiary designations. And you create an estate again by with proper financial planning and and the cornerstones of a financial plan. Now this particular part is how you have you create significant assets. The actual estate plan are the documents that I mentioned earlier. But if you want to also accumulate the assets, then you need to consider protecting your income stream, putting money away so that it will grow for you safely and in a tax advantage way. And usually the way that you would do that is to talk with a financial planner. So in order to have an estate plan, you would want to talk with an attorney to prepare the various documents for you. And from the perspective of growing your resources, you would want to talk with a financial planner. And why is all of this important? I will just share a small example with you of a situation that occurred during this COVID pandemic, where a husband and wife, they caught COVID, they died within 2 weeks of each other. The husband had significant assets in a retirement plan, and in a house, and in a brokerage account. He did not have a will, so he died intestate. And apparently he named the wife as the beneficiary of his retirement plan, and I think of the brokerage account, although he had a daughter, and but there was no will. So when the husband and wife died within 2 weeks of each other, in essence, with no written documentation of what was supposed to happen with his estate, the beneficiary designation failed for his insurance document, brokerage account, and retirement 401k plan. And therefore, those assets had to pass according to the laws of intestate succession. The surviving daughter was not able to get the assets, and she had to retain me to help her. And she lost all of the benefits that would have accrued to her had the father had a last will and testament, because the assets had to be liquidated before they could pass to the surviving daughter. And she lost all of the tax benefits associated with the retirement plan that could have been drawn down over 10 years if it had been set up properly, or if there had been a last will and testament. So having said that, I hope that you understand and appreciate the importance of doing putting your financial house in order and getting your estate plan in place now while you can, because if you fail to do so, the ramifications can be devastating from a financial perspective. So I, again, would like to thank the Christian Men's Inc. for allowing me the opportunity to share this topic with you in the 2022 session of Get Your House in Order. And I hope that you have found it to be helpful. Have a good day.
When we talk about financial structure, we're talking about and welcome to Ramp Up Your Startup. This is a workshop being presented by me. I'm Tom Webster. I'm honored to be here today to be able to share with you my experience and knowledge I have from being a startup themselves, being a startup myself, and building several successful businesses to now advising startups directly, as well as for large organizations, as well as impact investors across the country. So today I just want to touch on some fundamental aspects for being successful. And I want to thank Christian Men's Inc. for inviting me here to do this presentation for Get Your House in Order. So the first thing we're going to talk about today is, as I share with you, my background has been several. I've been involved in business for over 40 years, did my first startup back when I was in my late 20s. I'm not going to tell you how long ago that was, but I started a business with several other military guys, and we launched a security business back in the early 80s. And from there, built a very successful business, but we weren't prepared for success. And that taught me a lot about what I didn't know. From there, I went back to graduate school and learned about business and been involved in several businesses that I was allowed to build to scale through leveraging several types of initiatives that I'll talk about today. And through those businesses was able to do exits. And that was something that was very new to me, that was unexpected, that I could build something of value, then sell it. So my background currently is that I'm operating for working with the state of Pennsylvania, the state of Alabama, the state of California on their small businesses initiatives, as well as several impact investors that are looking to invest in minority firms, especially startups in the tech, life sciences, and innovation space. So what do you need to know to launch a successful startup? One of the things that you need to understand about launching a successful startup is that we're going to talk about today, but there's some fundamental things that you want to be able to have in place so that you know how to be successful. What are the pitfalls you want to avoid? What should you be considering when you're planning to launch? And really is being an entrepreneur, because that's what you're talking about when you're talking about being a startup, or the terminology you hear a lot today, being a founder. Is it right for you? So first, I want to start with the understanding that being in business has a life cycle, just like life. And as you know from life, there's ups and downs. It's the same thing in business. And those are the things, the considerations that you have to be able to look at and plan for. There is a life cycle in business, just like it is in our daily lives. So when you look at all of this, are you prepared to take this journey to not only launch your business, but be successful at it? And that is the key understanding that I want people to be able to take away, is that it's not about where you start, it's about where you end. So in launching your startup, it's all about being successful. So what are the first steps that you want to look at? The first thing you want to consider about anything that you're approaching and launching a venture or a business is that what is the real opportunity? And how do I approach what is often referred to as opportunity identification? And in your opportunity identification, how are you defining a need or solving a problem? For business to be successful, you either have to be able to fulfill a need or solve a problem. So what is your problem definition on the need that you're going to fulfill? Who are you going to be selling to, and why? Why are they going to be willing to pay for what it is that you're providing? And what's going to motivate them to buy from you? Domain expertise, is that what experience do you have to back up all of this that you're saying is important for you to start this venture? Do you have the skills or experience necessary that gives you the domain knowledge that allows you to become a thought leader or a subject matter expert in what it is you're proposing to do? And then, in looking at the end in mind, as I said earlier, what does success look like? And if you have a partner, are y'all defining success the same way? And does it excite the both of you to take this journey together? So when you begin to look at business, just like in life, there are pitfalls. It's not really what the pitfalls are, but why they exist. So I break it down in terms of myths versus reality. You often hear that entrepreneurs are born. The reality is that you are inspired and motivated with a plan and have a vision. You're not born to be an entrepreneur. You're inspired and motivated to be an entrepreneur. To be successful in business, you only need a good idea. You hear the stories about, oh, I started this company on a napkin, but you forget about the hard work, the passion, the commitment, the drive, and the uniqueness of your idea and product that went into that allowed that opportunity to turn into something that became something that people told stories about. Starting a business guarantees you freedom. I don't know how many times I had people tell me, I want to start a business because I want the freedom to work for myself. The reality is starting a business is a serious hustle. The workload that you're going to be required, that's going to be demand of you, is nothing compared to having a 9-to-5. If you're not prepared to work longer hours, longer days, and to give up a lot of freedom, then you need to really think about, is entrepreneurship the right path? Launching a company quickly leads to wealth. Not at all. Get used to rejection. Being in business is a marathon, not a sprint. Someone in business needs an MBA. No, you don't. You just can't be risk adverse. What I mean by risk adverse is that you got to be able to understand the challenges, have a strategy to overcome those challenges, and not be afraid of failure. And you can do it all by yourself. You often hear the stories, or you hear about people like Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg, how they started their companies. They all had partners. They all had partners. And Microsoft, for example, if you look at Bill Gates' partner, whether it's Steve Ballmer or Paul Allen, which you don't hear about, they are multi-billionaires. Steve Ballmer owns the LA Clippers. Paul Ballmer owns the Seattle Seahawks. So Bill Gates didn't do it all by himself. He was the guy you heard the most about, but they all did it with a team. There is a silver bullet for the secret to building a successful startup. I guess you could say that, but the silver bullet is people, relationships, and building value. If you're not able to have a team, build relationships, and understand the value proposition of how you're going to be successful, you'll never have business success. And quitting is for losers. You often hear that. The reality is you got to know your limitations. And in business, you got to know when to pivot. You got to know when to say, your strategy is not working. What do I need to do differently to be successful? What should you be considering when you plan to launch your venture? What's your plan and vision for the business? Very simply, you need to be able to do your homework, gather data. There's so many sources of data out here today, but fundamentally, you need to be able to read as much information as you can about your venture. You need to understand it by talking to people who are in your sector, and you need to be able to have experience. If you don't have the experience directly, then you have to be able to build a team, which may not only be the people who want to work with you, but advisors you want to be able to have to give you advice and consultation so that you understand what's necessary. Research. For me, prior to Google, in my era, you know, the public libraries was always a phenomenal source. In Philadelphia, they used to have what was called the Mercantile Branch, which was down on Chestnut Street, which eventually closed. It's now housed on the Parkway, but it used to be in a very extensive section. But one of the things that you want to remember in looking at that as a resource is that those librarians in those sections are phenomenal resources and experts. They are still a huge source for gathering information and data and directing you to sources of information that you can find out about any industry sector that you're trying to understand how to gather the data on them and understand how to be successful in that venture. Information interview. Talking to people in the sector is something that people overlook and is very key to your success. People love to talk about themselves and what they do, and being able to access them, whether it's going through events, connecting with them on social media, or following up through them through being introduced through business relationship, is going to be very vital to your success. Know your competition. You can never underestimate your competition, not just underestimating it, but using them as a playbook about how they were able to succeed, and then looking at your differentiators on how you're going to be better at it, which is going to allow you to substantiate your value proposition. Study history. Part of understanding the competition is what didn't work. What were the failures in your sector and why they failed, so that you don't make the same mistakes. For instance, Excite versus Google. You know, Excite could have purchased Google for $750,000 in their early days. Excite didn't see that as a good investment. And look at the difference today. Excite doesn't even exist anymore, and we know the story of Google. Kodak invented the first digital camera, filed the first patent for it in 1977. And look at the digital camera market today. We use digital cameras, and they created the foundation for what we use in our telephones. Blockbuster could have brought Netflix in 2000. And so you understand that story. So these are just some of the examples of understanding failures that people didn't realize what they need to consider in looking at the marketplace. What should you be considering when you're launching a plan? What's your pitch? What's your story? In today's world, in selling your business and building a business, it's about really storytelling. It's always been that way, but it's about how you perfect it. And so in understanding your pitch, it's about really building your story and understanding your value proposition. The elevator pitch is intended for you to be, it's intended to be concise and compelling introduction to you, your passion, your person, your passion, your purpose, and your promise. You know, good ones are 60 to 70 words in less than 60 seconds, and they avoid industry jargon and convey uniqueness and invite questions about what it is that you're doing, who you are, where you're from, what you do, and how you add value. If you answer those 4 questions in a very thoughtful way, with passion, purpose, and promise, you can put together a 60-second elevator pitch that will knock anybody off their feet. What should you be considering when you're planning to launch? You, as the founder and visionary behind any venture, you are the primary salesperson. You are the storyteller. You are the pitcher. People buy, people invest, people lend based on people. The facts have to back them up, but at the end of the day, decisions are made about the person based on how well you're able to convey who you are, what you do, and what it is and how you're going to bring value. So you have to learn to sell yourself, not just the business. Customer, partners, suppliers, and investors and employees buy into people, not always the business and the product. So your value proposition starts with how relevant you are and how you add value to eliminate pain, the benefit to what you're doing to any end user, which is your customer. The differentiator is how you are different from everybody else and how you can fulfill their needs better than the next person. Those are the components of a good value proposition, which becomes why people make investment, why people decide to buy from you and not the next person. So what should you consider in your launch is that in planning your launch, the fundamental things you got to begin to look at is the importance of your financial structure. When we talk about financial structure, we're talking about understanding the status of your business through your financial model. You were there to be able to, your structure should help you manage and track your obligations, responsibility for you to stay compliant. And you do that through several tools, whether it's your balance sheet, your income statement, or your cash flow. These are the important factors of why your financial structure is your key tool to not only starting your business, but sustaining it and then to scale it for growth. Your legal structure is important in terms of what are you doing, in terms of what's the best structure for you to launch, and understand your legal structure, even though you may be starting off as a home-based business, a sole proprietor, doesn't mean you have to stay that way. But your options are either a sole proprietorship based on your current structure, a partnership based on who you're working with, limited liability company to eliminate and manage risk, or S&C corporation, which allows you to begin to how you're going to attract capital and get investment in your business. Legal tips you want to consider is that in incorporating, it allows you to protect your personal assets while managing risk. Couple things that allows you to consider is always use a corporate name, always use a proper signature, follow up on corporate formalities, make sure to keep funds separate in your business, make sure to keep taxation separate, and all corporate transactions should be clearly separated from any individual transaction. Do not co-mingle funds. Mistakes a lot of small businesses make, even if you don't go out and start and incorporate immediately, open up a separate business account for whatever venture that you're doing. Whether you're doing it as having two separate personal accounts, one personal account is for your venture, the other is for your personal business. Is being an entrepreneur a good fit for you? So let's talk about that. You know, one of the things again, and just in recapping, business is like a life cycle. You can buy skills, but you cannot buy domain expertise. Entrepreneurs are born. No, they're not. They are made. You build a scalable business all by yourself. You do not. You need a team. What are the 3 things you should do to launch a business successfully? What are the 3 P's of pitching? Name the 2 financial statements you need for your businesses. And what are the 3 legal tips you should remember? The takeaway from all of this is, friends, is that in understanding and starting a business is that if you don't have passion, you don't have purpose, and you aren't willing to put in the work, then maybe starting a business is not the right step, the next step for you. But if that is something that you're committed to doing and you feel you have what it takes, then take your idea, go for it. There are a lot of resources out there, starting with Christians Men Inc. and this program here, Getting Your House in Order, and the great things that they do. and understanding that with all of this, in starting a venture, one of the steps that results in this is that it allows in any community to begin addressing how poverty gets eliminated. Starting a business, building assets leads to economic empowerment. And of course, from a legacy standpoint, it allows for passing on generational wealth. Again, my name is Tom Webster. I want to thank Christian Men Inc. for inviting me here today to present this presentation on ramping up your startup for getting your house in order. Thank you very much, and I appreciate the time.
Can you go see if you
Well, I don't want to be in here because you're
Yeah.
still streaming. You're live and you're still streaming.
okay.
Amen.
Eat.
Yeah.
Let's move this up a little bit. Sit down. Can you? We're streaming right now. There we go. All right. Woo! Just so much powerful information on these first 2 days. I hope that those who participated really at least gleaned one nugget, at least one nugget. And then, as we always say, yeah, you can learn a lot, but now it's application. Let's apply at least one thing that you've learned.
Well, I think that
I
for
can't
me,
hear you, Deep. I don't know why. Maybe can you come out and come back in?
yeah.
While you do that, I'm going to just kind of continue a bit. Yeah, so we want to thank the two panel groups that we had on yesterday. They were awesome. Then want to thank today's presenters. They were awesome. And we have a packed presentation, a team of presenters on tomorrow. And we hope that your participation, that you're able to catch some of the presentations tomorrow. That should be beginning at 1 o'clock. So day 3 is going to be filled with the, just strategies, practical strategies and solutions that help you get your house in order. That is, in fact, we know everybody wants to get their house in order. And so the intent of the Get Your House in Order conference is just to do that, to at least provide some strategies and solutions. And one of the things that has come out is from the discussions and the presentations is, so what does it really mean to get your house in order? Well, I have actually, this is a list of basic things that specifically pertain to some of the basics of getting your house in order. And as I think one of the presenters, William Thompson, as he stressed by sharing a couple of stories about families who didn't have the basics in place. Now we talked about, Tom Webster just talked about opportunities in small business, but and that's great. We definitely want to encourage that, and we have resources for that. But you got to start with the basics and making sure that your house is in order. That's your that you have things in place. And so this is a really abbreviated list of things from a basic standpoint that relates to getting your house in order. So this is a survey, and what we'd like for you to do right now is in your head to answer this question: yes, no, or maybe. Now I did the 3-question survey yesterday, so this is a little more extensive. I'm not going to read all of these right now, but I'll read about half of them, and it all pertains to getting your house in order. First is, have you decided? Now, have you decided on how much you're going to spend? Have you decided on how much you're going to spend? Second is, have you made the arrangement of service? What are the details of the arrangement of service? And that could entail contacting a funeral home, and or someone that is going to handle your service. Part of that is yes or no, the arrangement of service. Have you selected a casket? If in fact you want to have a casket, yes, no, or maybe. Here's something, brothers. Have you chosen the pallbearers? Who's going to be on both sides if you have a casket? Have you chosen them and said, hey, I want you to be a pallbearer? Why not ask them right now? The guy said, well, look, I got a bad arm, 2 bad arms. I can't do it. But you don't want to make him feel a certain type at the last minute. Family saying, hey, Rudy wanted you to be a pallbearer and you got some physical challenges there. Decide on the type of burial. What does that entail? Those veterans understand all the particulars of that. But have you decided on the type of burial and what that entails, especially with individuals as part of associations, and fraternities and all kind of organizations? They come into play. So you need to decide on the type of burial and the particulars of that. Selecting the cemetery memorial. Have you selected the cemetery memorial? Yes, no, maybe. The preparation of the death certificate. These are the checklists that, and part of that is the process for that, of the preparation of a death certificate. The Social Security papers, are those in order? Meaning if you're receiving Social Security, there's a process in advising someone, particularly the family, regarding those affairs, regarding Social Security. Another is arranging for transportation. These are all the things that can be pre-planned, if you will, or documented. Yeah, I want a 1,000-foot limousine, or I want a smart car. Put me on top of the smart car. You have to let your family know ahead of time. And it doesn't hurt. This is another one, really detailed. Provide for your family history. Now, you need to detail your family history so that there's no issues upon Lord calling you home, and then family didn't know about comes out the woodworks because you had $1 million policy, and well, we know those stories. So these are just some of the things as part of the Get Your House in Order checklist. And we invite you, if you answer yes, no, maybe, you got questions about any of those, and we'll finish the list tomorrow. If you send an email to info@ChristianMenInc, ChristianMenInc.org, or if you go to the website, www.christianmeninc.org, and hit our contact tab, someone will reach out to you and make sure you get a copy of this list of the Get Your House in Order list. So again, just to wrap this up, from Sam Jackson's rap is, what's in your wallet? Well, Christian Men Inc., we're reaching out to the brothers. Is your house in order? And we invite you to answer that question personally, and to challenge another brother, and ask them, is their house in order? And it doesn't mean 100% every aspect in order, but at least begin to put that in place. So I think that is what I have for today. as we spoke about tomorrow. Dean Glover, anything you want to add?
I think you pretty well sort of lined it all up, because at the end of the day, you have already.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the bottom line is the way that you kind of lay the discussion out and some of the response that you're looking for. But what it does also is provide an opportunity for individuals to reflect on. It's an expansive world out there as far as getting your house in order. You may believe that you have to have a lot of resources to get started, but you can just get started with yourself and build on that. And also, again, to look at where the end process needs to be, where you're trying to get to or what you're trying to accomplish. And you got to build into that the steps to get you there. It doesn't have to be done overnight, because everyone that was making the presentation, these guys been around 10, 15, 20, 30 years. I mean, it just takes time. Time is not promised to any of us, but it does has to be figured into your plan that is going to take time to complete the task that I want to achieve. And so what I need to do is to try to build into this planning process and into this venture of folks that can help me where I'm not strong, build on my strengths that I do have. But the most opportune time is to get folks that say, I want to be a part of it.
I agree 100%. Well, this just about wraps up day 2 of Get Your House in Order. We're looking for the final day tomorrow, where we'll have some presentations beginning at 1 p.m. tomorrow, and then we'll wrap up with some information regarding next steps for post to Get Your House in Order conference. I think we're going to be able to share some exciting things about the next step, so that's not, again, a one and done kind of thing, because just as you said, getting your house in order is a process, and you begin the process. So we're going to share with some of the ways we can help facilitate and engage for those that want to engage in that process. So we look forward to everyone tuning in tomorrow. Again, we want to thank all of the presenters and those who have been able to watch the Get Your House in Order conference. And until tomorrow, continued peace, power, and prosperity to you and your family.